Hi, and welcome to the myfreeactingclass.com lesson for Friday, August 21st, in a cabin in the woods once again. So hopefully this works. If you have any trouble hearing me, or if there's anything technically going wrong that I don't know about, please pop it in the chat window. Today we have actress Amy Farrington joining us. So let's take a quick look at her on IMDb. Just a little reminder that I've updated the myfreeactingclass.com website with the video archive. You can go on and see videos from all of the past classes for free. Now, Amy Farrington, here she is. The filmography, right now she's on a TV series called S.W.A.T, 21 episodes. I don't know if they finished shooting, if they're still shooting right now, something we can ask her. She was on American Princess, and she was on a bunch of these shows. It's interesting. This is very normal, for the career of even somebody very successful. One of the things that you might notice if you look here, is that she's got 21 episodes here, of the show, and then a couple of shows in 2018, a couple of shows in 2019. There's a couple of pilots, that she was in, that she must have been very excited about, but didn't get picked up. This is the sort of normal life of a working actress. Among other things, she got to be Demi Lovato's mom on Grey's Anatomy, so that's pretty cool. We've got a picture of them all here. Her biography, she started in regional musical theater. So for regional musical theater, means sort of smaller community musical theater. It's a term that you'll hear used, regional theater, in the States that you won't hear used here, that you won't hear used in Canada or BC as much. Was born in Boston, Massachusetts, raised in Garland, suburb of Dallas, Texas. After attending a musical theater conservatory program, she worked in local and regional theaters before moving to Chicago. Chicago, she performed at several theaters, including the Bailiwick Repertory, the Court Theater, and Steppenwolf Theater. Steppenwolf Theater, these ones might be just as big a deal as Steppenwolf, but Steppenwolf even I've heard of, I live in a media vacuum. She was piloting NBC, network sitcoms, details. So there you go. There's your quick glimpse of Amy Farrington, and I will quickly pop her info into the chat window so that you can pull her up there. Now, I don't see her here yet. And so I'm going to just quickly hop on mail and see if she sent an urgent email saying like, oh my gosh, how do I find the meeting? Which maybe she has. Okay, momentarily just waiting for computer programs to boot up and do their thing. If it does take her another minute, does anybody have a burning question they want to ask at the while we wait for Amy to join us?
I have a question, Michael.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you know if there's any kind of government grants or anything you can get for continuing study in acting?
Not to the best of my knowledge, no. I know that young people, there's potentially there's like a tax deduction, that you can use for like sending your kids to acting classes. But as an adult, there are Canada Council grants that are available for training. But in order to get them, you have to have like a fairly significant body of documented work. So and any of the people I know who've applied for those have been theater artists. I think it's theoretically possible that somebody who's a film and TV artist could apply for them, but I've never heard of any of my peers getting funding to do that kind of training.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's disappointing. Candy, yeah, please. You're gonna have to unmute yourself. I can't hear a thing you're saying. Oh no, you are unmuted, but for some reason I still can't hear you. Technology. It's not me, it's you. um, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on, Kenny. But if you type your question in, then
Is that better?
oh, hey, we can hear her now.
Can you hear?
You might have had plugs in.
I
Ah,
did.
there we go. Can
Hello?
you send in more than one headshot? So, is your question? You mean can you send an agent more than one headshot?
Oh, yeah. It's funny now. I can't hear you. Um, yeah. So for curly hair and one for straight hair.
Uh, of course. Yeah.
Is
There's
or is that kind of a no? You only do one.
I don't think that there are hard and fast rules about this sort of thing. In fact, I think it's the
Okay.
kind of thing that actors like to twist themselves into pretzels, thinking that there's a right way to do it. And I think it's just like uh, it's a great way, it's a great way to twist yourself up to be like, oh my gosh, there's one right way to do these things, and I know I'm getting it wrong, and like there isn't. There are 110 different talent agencies in town. They don't have any sort of standardized code. They're all
Okay.
making up the rules as they go along. That's why you look at their websites first. And unless it says no, never send more than one headshot, then you're fine. You're totally fine.
Okay.
Now I have a document that's got a list of, and I made it for young folks, and I've been teaching young folks for longer, and in general, like I've just offered more support for young folks. So I have a document that has like, here are the 20 something agencies that I think are most effective for young people. Here are sort of, here's what you tell a talent agent. So if we don't get Amy, because it's possible, that even though she confirmed for Friday that she's having like a COVID day, and that we'll get a message from her in an hour going like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. In which case, whatever, you'll have a whole week to anticipate her awesomeness. But unless somebody's got like a burning something that they want to talk about otherwise, maybe what I'll do is I'll spend time going over that document. And that could be useful if you have a talent agent. Like, let's say that you have an extras agent, and you're like, oh, but yeah, but I want to go out for commercials, or I want to go out for principals. Or you've got just a commercials agent, and you're like, oh, I want to go out for film and TV auditions. Or you're like, you don't have a talent agent at all. And for those of you who already have agents, and you're like, I'm good, I'm set, don't need an agent. Well, there might be a point at which you decide that you want to investigate other talent agencies, and so there still might be some useful stuff. Yeah, still no word from Amy, unfortunately. And so let me pull up that document, and I've got to say that it is still a little bit in the rough draft stage. I put a bunch of time into it, and then sort of moved on to other projects, and so it hasn't been updated since sort of before COVID, but is March 20th. There we go. Okay. So there's 24 agencies on here. And I'll put it into the Dropbox folder. I'll send you the link, and then I will pull it up, and we can look at it together. And hopefully, you will help me out by asking questions about it. Today is the what? The 21st? Yeah. So here we go. If you pull this up I heard you should have a resume and a headshot. That's completely accurate, Christina. You should have a resume and a headshot. And so in the document that you're about to look at, there's a resume template. There's actually one of the early lessons, if you go through the video archive, is all about resumes. In fact, there's two of them. There's a full class on resumes, and then there's another class maybe like a week later where you can see the updated resume. One of the students from that first class like completely reworked her resume, and so you get to see the before and after. Highly recommend that. In fact, I really should just ask her if I can append it to the document I just sent you, because it's so instructive. You look at the first resume and you're like, meh, and then you look at the finished resume and you're like, oh my God, this woman is like such a professional. And that's the goal. With a resume, you want people to look at it for 5 seconds and get the sense of what your professional skills are. It's not like a CV where it's like a list of everything you've ever done. CV, is stands for curriculum vitae for any of our little people, but like you don't need to remember the Latin words. It's just a list of everything you've ever done. A resume is like, here's the stuff that's the most important for you to know about me as an actor. But just like all on one page. It should be one page because they're not going to spend much time looking at it. They're going to spend 5 seconds looking at your resume. They're going to spend 10 seconds looking at your headshot, and they're spending most of their time looking at your video. So let's let me screen share with you and start going through it. All right, so this is not by any means an exhaustive list of talent agents. This is a list of 24 agencies specifically that I've witnessed working well with young people. The number of each, besides each agency, the number of talent agents working according to IMDb Pro. Right, so I'm an IMDb Pro member. I took advantage of that. If you're an IMDb Pro member, you can go in and find an enormous amount of information about each agency. You can find the rosters of the individual agents, right? So there are, at the cost of talent management, for instance, there are 8 different talent agents. If you want, you can go on IMDb and you can look up, if you can get a trial pro membership, you can look up how many clients each of them has, if they're young clients, if they're adults. You get a sense of like which people work mostly with kids, and particularly if you are an adult looking for representation, you can go on and see if there's anybody who looks like you. So if they're like, oh, do they have anybody between within like 10 years of my age on either side who is blonde, like me, or who has dark hair like me? And then when you send them a cover letter, right? So there's the whole list, 115 licensed talent agencies here. How do I know which one's best for me? There's a lot of information in here. I still stand by a lot of this stuff. The main point is that the best agent for you is one that you trust. Right, there's and so the idea that the best agent is one who you trust is because there's going to be times. I mean, we looked at Amy's resume, right? And you saw on there that she had right. She's got 21 episodes of a show in the last in 2019 and 2020. She got another 2 movies in 2019, but in 2018 she worked twice. So that means large portions of 2018 she was auditioning, maybe she wasn't auditioning, and not getting work. And so you have to have an agent who, if you're auditioning and not getting work, or if you're not getting auditions, you trust that your agent is doing everything they can to get you out there. Because if you don't have that trust, then it gets in the way of you feeling, I think, skilled, and it gets in the way of you doing good work. And every actor is going to run into that at some point.
Hi.
Oh, is that Amy Farrington?
It is. I am so sorry. I completely forgot about you. I forgot. I'm so sorry.
No,
Can you see me?
I can't yet because I was,
There we go.
some other stuff.
There we go.
There she is. Hi, so I'm just.
This
Well,
is not
thank you
this
for
setup.
coming in on short notice. Appreciate that. The was the thing that I was just talking about. I was going over a document. Hey, everybody! This is Amy Farrington. Woo!
Hi, guys.
We looked at your resume. We talked about you a little bit. Yeah, everybody's keen to talk to you. I showed them a picture of you being Demi Lovato's mom because I figured that like the young folks would be pretty stoked about that.
Aw.
We was just answering some questions about talent agents for these folks, and just to finish that thought about the best talent agent is one who you have a really good trusting relationship with, because there's going to be times where, regardless of how established you are in your career, you are going to have times when you're not auditioning at all, or where you're auditioning and not working, and having somebody who you trust to counsel you through that process is important. Agree with that? Does that
Here we go.
fit your experience as an actor?
No, there we go. Sorry, I live by the airport, so you're going to be hearing some airport noise.
All good.
Yeah, it is the beginning and end of your career as, a professional actor here in Los Angeles is getting an agent. And it is the hardest thing to do. There are so many fantastic actors out here, and they just can't get an agent. It's really hard. Youth is, of course, best. They love young blood, young up and coming, especially if you're funny. They love that. But they're making a lot of content for young people. So not like back in my days where, we had like 3 shows for teenagers and we like hung on every word. Now you have entire networks that are devoted to kids and to teenagers. So easier if you're young. But yeah, what was the question again?
Oh, just that in any actor's career, there's going to be periods where there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times where you're not auditioning or not working, and so you have to be able to trust that your agent is telling you the truth about that, and that they're doing whatever they can.
Yeah. I have actually a manager who was my agent and then became a manager when she had a baby and she wanted some more time to devote to her family so she could work out of her home and take a very, very limited amount of clients with her. So I have my manager also on the job reading those scripts and trying to get you out there into those auditions. But yeah, it ebbs and flows. You're going to be busy, and then it is going to be crickets. So yeah, you're I'll call every once in a while. Hey, what's going on? They're like, Amy, I promise we're sending you out for everything. They have these they have breakdowns, and you can look through the breakdowns and see things that you might be right for. And I would, when I started, I'd be on my agents. I'd be like, hey man, why aren't I going in for this thing? And they're like, Amy, please don't read those. We submitted you and they don't want to see you, so sometimes you just have to trust.
That's and you so we're sort of jumping in halfway through a conversation.
Sorry guys, I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry about it. Just thanks for jumping in. You started in musical theater, right?
I did.
And so what was that like for you, making the transition from theater to film?
Well, I think it was a natural progression because I went from musical theater to theater to commercials and a few little things that they were doing in Chicago. They weren't doing many things in Chicago, but now they're doing a lot of things in Chicago, of course, now that I've moved here. But back then they did some exteriors for ER and a show called Early Edition, and that was about it. And then some movies that would come through. So yeah, I was doing musical theater, regional theater, going, around the country. Yeah, doing musical theater. And then I was like, I'm going to move to Chicago because that's where they have all the theater. So I moved to Chicago and I started doing kind of moving out of musicals and into just regular straight plays. And then I got an agent and started going out for commercials first. My first job was a commercial, but my first real job was on ER. They had an exterior, and it was an actual scene. And I got it. I got my SAG card from that. I mean, I've never been so excited to get a job in my life. So
I haven't talked at all about the Screen Actors Guild. So SAG stands for the Screen Actors Guild.
Yes.
And can you give folks here who might not know anything about working in the States context for why it is exciting or useful, important to get a single professional credit and get a SAG card?
Yeah. Well, your SAG card is your ticket to getting SAG jobs, and any job, the union is behind it. So the union makes sure that you're getting paid appropriately, and all of every television, we won't get into that, but every thing on network television, mostly cable television, any movie that you see that is made in the United States or is a United States producing company is SAG. So you want to get your union card so you'll be eligible to audition for SAG productions, and they have insurance.
Are they fairly strict about not auditioning non-union actors for those shows?
Yes. I mean, they can audition non-union actors for the jobs, but if they book the job, they have to join the union. Back in the day, you had like a couple of things you could do, like two things, and then on the third, you got to join. So yeah, I wanted to join right away. So they didn't even have to twist my arm.
And that's true of any of the American actors I've spoken to. Just for context, everybody, the ACTRA, which is the Association of Canadian Television and Radio Artists, or UBCP, has something similar. However, at least in BC, they're not nearly as strict about not auditioning non-union actors. So many actors choose to stay non-union as long as they possibly can so that they can audition for more commercials, because being non-union typically doesn't hurt your chances of auditioning for film and TV in BC. In the States, it's much more significant, because there are just so many actors and so many skilled actors, and everybody has worked even once professionally is going to be a SAG member. Those are the actors they're going to see first. It's one of the ways that they sort of weed through many thousands of submissions. They have otherwise no way of knowing sort of which one about the skill points.
Yeah, and the way that our union fights for us too, to make sure that we are, have a leg up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find musical theater to be a useful background, going into film?
Absolutely. I mean, any kind of theater is a great background for getting into the business. It teaches you to work with others. There's discipline. It's just fun. It's a lot of people, it's their entree into acting because, the musicals in high school, it was cool to be in the musicals in high school. And so a lot of people, even though they got out of musical theater right away, and they were like, oh, I can't really sing or whatever, but they were in the musicals in high school. And it's just such an accessible, lovely art form. It's glamorous with the costumes and the razzle dazzle. And but yeah, and it teaches you, you know, when you're learning how to sing, elocution and projection, and learning how to move, having to dance, get you out of your comfort zone. Yeah, and you meet so many friends because musicals tend to be bigger.
Right.
So you'll be doing a show with, you know, 25 people. My first musical theater experience, my first professional job in musical theater, it was almost a cast of 100. I mean, there were so many people in this production with cast and crew. It was an outdoor theater, and it was just, you know, so much fun. Just a lot of fun. And I'm still friends with all those people.
Nice. We've got a really mixed group here. You know, we've got, you know, we've got, you know, kids to adults. We've got some folks, you know, with this modest amount of professional experience, you know, and some who have never worked professionally, you know. And so another sort of piece of context that I, you know, forgot to give you because we were starting midstream.
Sorry.
No. This is me going like, oh, right, I should have said that at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, are you going to join us?
Is there anything, you know, from your, like, you know, because we're sort of, you know, coming near 4 o'clock, I'll, you know, ask you one last question, then we'll see if what other people are curious about. Because I think you're also the first actor who's like currently living in Los Angeles that we've had as a guest here.
Okay.
Right, we've had a lot of BC actors and some folks who've worked in LA, but nobody who's actively living there. So my guess is that, you know, some of these folks, you know, will have questions for you. You know, but like from this place of experience now, what advice would you give your younger actor self? You know, about like, yeah, maybe I'll leave it that open.
Gosh, I would say just to get started. I was a slow starter. I didn't figure out what I wanted to do until I was in my 20s. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think I want to be an actor. So I was a slow starter. I would say, you know, just do more shows. Just get places where they have theater and just join. Be in every show that they let you be in. Say yes to everything. Be brave. And try to get that representation a little bit earlier. I was like, oh, I'm just going to do theater. I'm just going to, you know, I mean, it's hard to say because everything that I've done led me to where I am right now, which is like, you know, much more successful than I ever dreamed that I would be, you know, doing Galveston Island outdoor musicals. I never, you know, thought that I would be here on a show, but yeah, it's hard, you know, just be brave, get out there, have fun, and just do it.
I've heard that echoed by the folks that I know who started with indie film too. You know, so it doesn't just, if you're like, theater, you know, that idea of be brave and just say yes, you know, honestly extends to student films, independent films, you know, showing up, making connections with the people who are making work, you know, showing that you want to be there and you want to do things and that you are not judgmental, you know, that you are that you're supportive of other people who are also learning. It's a great way to get yourself started.
Yeah, and it's a collaboration too, because you're helping them, you know, make their vision, you know, so it's a real collaboration, and you're doing it together.
Before we wrap today, do any of you have questions for Amy? Anything in particular you want to know? You can wave your hands in the air or use the little, raise your hand function that's in the participant window.
No.
Anybody? No, you're like, it's too much information. Good. Kevin, you got a question for us?
Yeah, for sure. I watched you on SWAT, so I recognized you kind of right away there. Great work on there.
Oh, thank you.
How hard is it to get on a big show like that? Like, is it, did it take you a while, or like how's that journey for you?
Yeah, that I've done a lot of pilots, which are television series, like kind of what's a pilot? Do you know what a pilot is? A pilot is the they're saying, hey, network, would you like to make this show? Here's a show. And so lots of high hopes, lots of, if it goes, I'm going to be on a television series. So that happened a lot. You get these pilots and you're like, oh my gosh, it's all happening. And then it doesn't happen. So SWAT was completely out of left field. I was visiting my dad in Dallas, and I got this audition for SWAT. I'm a comedy girl. I do sitcoms mostly. So I get this thing for SWAT, and I'm like, SWAT, meh. But I read it, and there's like a little something going on there. She's kind of got a little edge to her. So I was like, okay, I think I can make this my own. So on the plane ride home, I memorized all the copy, and I went in to do the audition with, really, I just didn't want to embarrass myself because it's not my thing. I just didn't want to embarrass myself. You don't want to embarrass yourself in front of a casting director, and then the casting director is like, well, we don't need to see Amy for anything else. Those things can happen. And I'm just talking about, make a fan. You go into these rooms and you just want to make a fan. So so I prepared. That's something that I can tell you guys. Prepare. Memorize your stuff. Go in there like you are going to set, and you will stand out, because other people will be reading off of the page and they won't even be in your category, because you are giving a performance to them and you are ready to go on set. And so you're going to be in a different, so that's one thing that I would tell any young or any performer to, that's, I think, had a lot to do with my success, that I go in there to those audition rooms and I am prepared and I am ready to go to set. They know what I'm going to bring. So that's how I did this audition. I went in, the casting director's like, oh, I like that, Amy. You brought a little personality to it. I was like, oh, thanks. And a week later, I was a series regular on SWAT. So this stuff happens, guys. It happens. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, and you remember, looking at Amy's IMDb page, there were, pilots that, had one episode listed. There were pilots that, didn't even make it as far as airing, it looks like, that were.
Yeah, nope, they don't air. They show them to NBC, they show them to CBS, and they're like, nah, we want to do this other thing. You're like,
yeah. Any other questions for Amy before we wrap up? Here we've got a real live, a skilled, successful actor who's living in Los Angeles, who's given us her time. Anybody? Yeah, Candy, you want to jump in there? Go ahead.
So you've been acting for a while. Like, what keeps you acting? Why do you love it? Why do you have so much fun with it?
It is fun. I love memorizing lines. I love the challenge of memorizing lines. I like trying to put a little of my own spin on things. I love auditioning. I've auditioned far more than I've been on set. So I love auditioning. I love getting the copy. I love trying to figure out who this person is and how I'm going to be a little bit different from everybody else that goes in the room. And I love memorizing it. I love preparing it. I love that process. So, and it's just fun, guys. You know, it's fun. You know, sometimes you just even forget that you're acting or that you're on a job, and it's just, it's, you know, when you're flying high and it's fantastic and everything's going well and you just like everything's great. It's just, there's no greater feeling. There's no greater feeling.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks so much for making time for us today, Amy. Really appreciate it.
Well, I apologize again for being late. I forgot about you. I'm not even going to try to pretend I didn't. I did.
That's all good. You know, like it's quarantine. You know,
Yeah.
Everybody unmute yourselves. You know, and say thanks to Amy.
Bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Break a leg, everybody.
Amy, Farrington. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Break a leg.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Michael.